Great. So here is another segment where we can explore the topic of jackal honesty versus giraffe honesty. So as a student, maybe I want to offer my understanding so far, and then I would invite your feedback.
Yeah, sure.
I'll edit this out. Yes, so to me, jackal honesty is when we are just blurting out what we are thinking and judging the other person. Like, why are you so irresponsible? Why are you so selfish? This sort of conversation where it's quite common to hear in daily life. And I imagine that you can actually, yes, we're honest in the sense that we are speaking our mind, but I imagine that it is actually quite life alienating and it can actually not help the connection much. Whereas if we put on our giraffe ears and translate it into the fourth stage of observation, feeling, need, and request. So, if, for example, instead of saying, um, you are so lazy, then I can just, even when I saw that you didn't clean the dishes, the 4 dishes that after lunch, I feel a bit irritated. I really want a clean kitchen. You should be willing to clean it by 5 a.m., the standard OFNR translation. Then this would be both honest and it would also create connection. So this is what I understand so far. I would invite your feedback to level up my understanding.
Yeah, so I really like the description that you gave. And the example too. So that sounds pretty accurate. Comparing giraffe honesty to jackal honesty. Your puppets over there, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And then also, so there's another perspective too. So here, in either case, well, what's really happening is we're just expressing ourselves, right? It's a matter of how we choose to express ourselves. We can and so now, as Marshall would say, if you're listening with giraffe ears, there is no such thing as jackal honesty, because everything you hear, you can translate what you hear. So you can really sense the observations, feelings, needs, and requests underneath a message, even if for the untrained ear it would sound harsh or jackal. For the trained ear or the giraffe ear, you can still hear, what's inside of a person. What's really happening for them, if you're really attuned to listening to them in that different kind of way.
Yes. So what I'm hearing is that you're adding the fact that even if the other person is speaking in jackal honesty, we can still choose to receive it as giraffe honesty because we can activate our giraffe ears. Yeah. So is there anything? Is that kind of can we go into a kind of deeper level, the philosophy,
Sure.
to see how
So
and why it works?
so if it's the case that, well, no matter what you say, it can be received as a beautiful message of what's really going on for you emotionally and all the rest, then why bother even trying to make it sound giraffe? And also, let's make a distinction that really, in actuality, we would want to use street giraffe to make it sound more casual. Because if we were to use formal classical giraffe, it could turn people off, right?
Yes.
So, but why even bother with the street giraffe? Why go there? Well, so for those who aren't familiar with really listening through the words to really what's inside of a person, people who aren't used to that, it's so much easier for them to receive a message if it's presented in an easy to digest kind of manner. So if someone were to come and say, My God, look at you. You're such a slob, not even cleaning up the kitchen like this, to use your kitchen example, right?
Yeah.
So if someone would come at me and say, "Oh, you're such a slob," look at, it would take some effort for me to translate that. Oh, okay. So I'm hearing the word slob, but what's really going on for them is I'm sensing maybe anger, maybe frustration, something like that. When they see the dishes, maybe they have a need for cleanliness, order, organization, these kind of things. And they probably have a preference. They would prefer, or that they'd like if I would clean up the dishes, right? So it takes a little bit more mental effort for me to take your message and translate it. And especially if hearing that kind of message, if I would internalize that and accept that, oh man, he just called me a slob, gosh, I just feel horrible about myself now. Like, oh my God, I look at what I've done. I'm such a bad person for doing this. Or if I take it and figure, man, you're such a jerk for talking to me like that. Now I'm aggressive and angry, right? So with all these emotions, whether it's, as we would say, uh, jackal ears outward as aggressive, or jackal ears inwards as self-criticizing. If I have these emotions going on in me, it's all the more difficult to move forward and translate your message. So if the message is already coming across as a giraffe message, as a message that's very easy to consume, a message that's very straightforward in its expression of observations, feelings, needs, and requests, then I'm all the less likely to take it personally, or get defensive or aggressive around the topic, and easily receive it and then respond in a way that's a lot more likely to end up in resolving that conflict.
I would like to link what you are saying to an analogy that we were saying, talking about the other day in terms of resource management. What I'm hearing is effectively, this is practical kindness. We want to help the other person conserve their mental resources. So then we need a translation for them. Like a few days ago, and I said, oh, whose clothes are in the washing machine? And then, yes, that was just a question, but yeah, you pointed out to me that if I ask, uh, because yeah, I want to wash some clothes, would you be willing to take them out when you can? Then this would yeah, and then it would help you help you save some precious mental resources. Like it doesn't take me that much effort because I'm the person initiating the request. I do have that request somewhere in me, which is easy to translate. So you mentioned it would be, yeah, just more harmony.
I really like how you mentioned the topic of resource management, because it's exactly on point. So it does take more resources to speak giraffe. It also takes more resources to listen to giraffe. Sorry, to listen in giraffe, or to put on the giraffe ears,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And um, and just like you're saying, actually, just like you suggested, it even though it does take a little bit more energy to speak giraffe, it takes a lot more energy to receive in giraffe.
Exactly. So it's more efficient. So it's a little bit of investment. The return on investment is so high. We spend 1 unit of energy to translate to speak, to translate and speak in giraffe, but then you may take the other person 5 units of energy to translate the other way. Or I'm not sure about the exact number, but the idea is that the overall is more efficient for the speaker to translate.
So yeah.
And then I imagine that, yeah, not only the ease of getting that message across, but also the return would be the connection that we continue to maintain or to grow. And then there are a lot of other needs. So my spending an extra just a few seconds of the translation, it can yield so much more so much return. So from an economic perspective, it is a win-win, really. It's a sure win.
Absolutely. So if you imagine the effort you spend plus the effort that I spend, if we're having a conversation together, if you initiate with speaking in giraffe, then there's a net savings right from the get-go.
Wow, so it's like using solar power, really.
What?
I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm going with energy. So yeah, speaking in giraffe is like
Okay.
using solar energy because it's literally free. It's everywhere. And then we take a little bit of upfront cost to install the panel, but then we can get kindness for years and years to come.
Sure, and then to move forward with this kindness for years to come.
Yeah.
So not only is it that it takes less, or rather, I don't need to expend the resources in trying to interpret your message, but also I'm all the less likely to get triggered myself and say something to you that would be triggering for you. And so there's a lot less it's a lot less likely for both of us to really get things escalated. And so our connection is a lot more likely to be a lot more peaceful and tranquil and settled, resulting in a resolution. And then also, I love that point that you mentioned before. What's really the core fundamental intention going on here? It's human to human connection. It's an opportunity for us to really explore what's going on inside of each other. And wow, so how are you feeling? This is how I'm feeling, for us to really have a sense of what it's like to be one another. And so it's this beautiful opportunity for us to connect, to learn more about each other. And all of these reasons together, I'd say, really compel me to make not only using NVC, but living NVC part of my lifestyle.
So at the ultimate Jedi level of NVC, when I see someone's clothes in the washing machine, so I want to connect with the magical power to get in touch with what's alive in me and to make life more wonderful.
Yeah.
I want to make my life more wonderful by washing my own clothes. But then how do I consider the feelings and needs of the other person?
So now we're starting to explore some self-empathy here, or at least we could go in that direction. So wow, seeing as I have some dirty laundry here, and also seeing as the washing machine is full, well, maybe I feel some stress in me, or some frustration, and so because I'm needing ease with respect to cleanliness, cleanliness and clean clothes, and so now I have an opportunity to strategize and figure, well, maybe I have some options here. So one option is to send a group message to all the roommates, and or flatmates, because we're in the UK.
Welcome to the UK. Yes.
Thank you. And so let's send a group message and see, well, whose laundry it is. Let's make a request for whose ever laundry it is to come and take it. Another would be, well, how about, speaking on behalf of you, that you could take out the laundry yourself and maybe hang it somewhere or put it somewhere, or perhaps you could use the coin laundry service down the street. There's all kinds of options. You could hand wash your clothes. So there are lots of options. And what happens when we strategize is we imagine what would happen, what would the consequences be if we were to actually, say, hand wash our clothes, or to take out the clothes from the machine and put our own clothes, or to go to the laundry shop down the street. What would happen? How many would that be a resource intensive strategy? Would that strategy be very likely to meet needs? Would there be any unmet needs in that strategy? So all of these considerations just are processed, in a split second. And what happens is we get a very small emotional reaction inside of our body just thinking about the strategy. So just thinking, okay, imagine if I did that. Okay, and then we kind of feel feelings as if it actually happened, imagining the consequences of our actions, right? And so the strategy that we actually end up using in the end is the strategy that elicits the highest, or rather the greatest positive emotion in us when we're thinking about the strategy. Now, I just said a whole lot. Can you tell me what you heard me say? Or unless you have any questions.
Let's sort of check my understanding first. So my summary is that yeah, we can have many strategies to basically need to get my clothes washed. Which is not really a need, but yeah, maybe it's supposed to be just it's the need of ease and the need of
Hygiene,
hygiene
cleanliness,
and
which
yeah,
is tied to health.
yeah, health and yeah, well-being and beyond. And then yeah, there are many strategies. And what you are saying is once we can one kind of helpful, useful data we get from our feelings. We can imagine ourselves implementing the strategy and checking with yourself what emotions and feelings are alive in us, then this could be very helpful input for helping us to decide which strategy we end up choosing. Are we on the same page?
Well, so that's one approach to it. And so the other approach is just explaining human behavior. And so even if we're not conscious of our strategizing process, if we're not thinking about strategizing at all, if we're on autopilot, still that's going on in our subconscious is the strategizing process. And the strategy that we actually end up using is during the strategizing process where strategies are coming to our mind so very rapidly, and the consequences, and we imagine what would happen, almost in just the blink of an eye, just so fast. What happens is as the outcomes of these different strategies play through our thoughts, play through our minds, kind of visualize it sometimes. We have very small emotions sort of resonate in us. And then, so for each strategy, a different sort of emotion or a different sort of strength of emotion perhaps is within us. So the strategy that results in the greatest positive emotion is the one that we end up choosing, whether we're conscious about it or not.
Yes, and then to expand on what you were saying is a lot of the other factors that you like to call need strategy influencer, our values, our past experience, and kind of all those things can also come into play, and we can also consider those. And so just to kind of reiterate and emphasize that it's not we're not advocating a purely emotional approach at all, but this is a beautiful strategy which can incorporate kind of the intellectual side as well. Do you agree?
I had trouble following you on that one, and also earlier today I found something else that is influenced by these things. So instead of our thoughts, that is. So instead of calling it a thought needs strategy influencer, that's quite a mouthful. So I decided to shorten it just to influencers. So we have these influencers, and so I can describe how influencers will play a role in this situation. But before I get to that, if I even get to that, I want to understand better what you were saying just now. So can you maybe rephrase or?
Yes, so what I wanted to say is that I want to send a clear message that we decide not only based on feelings, because this could be, this would be one way to interpret what we were saying, what we were exploring just now in terms of going through different strategies and then just seeing what emotions come up and then just to maximize the positive emotions. So this end up being effectively decision science based on feelings, which I believe should be incomplete. Is what I kind of So it's where I want to kind of also bring in the joy of what the internet can offer.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, Ben. So certainly. So we have what I would call influencers.
Yes.
So our influencers, just like you were suggesting moments ago, they include our past experiences, our knowledge, skills, our core beliefs, our philosophy, the resources that we have at our disposal, whether the resources are time or energy or material resources, the environment that we're in. There are so, relationships that we have. There are so many things that influence so many parts of our behavior, including our thoughts, our needs, and our feelings, maybe more. So, so when it comes to strategizing and figuring, okay, so in this case, your strategy, or rather the strategy that you chose here to implement, was to send a group message to all the flatmates to see, well, whose clothes are these? And so part of what motivated you to reach out to us are your influencers. In this case, I can imagine that you've had past experiences when there was an unknown, where you had a sense of a group of people that if you reach out to this group of people, then you will know, then you will have your answer.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm sure, it's a very common, generalized sort of case that I just named. You reach out to a group of people, you find out. And so because you've had that experience before and it worked, you imagine, well, hey, why not try it again? It'll probably work again. And it's a very minimal investment to send a little message, and it's likely to return prompt feedback. And so you figured, well, this strategy would probably meet the most needs and result in the least unmet needs. So I'll move forward with this one. So not only, so look, I just described the same thing in 3 different ways. So one is this strategy results in the greatest positive emotions when we play it in our minds, when we imagine actually acting upon it, and imagining the consequences and the greatest feelings. I also named that when we imagine doing this, it results in the greatest the greatest increase in met needs and the least decrease in unmet needs.
Yes. Okay.
You had to process that.
Yeah, you didn't translate that. That's joking.
Right. Yeah. So we talked about feelings, the needs, and the influencers, how the influencers play a role too. So there's lots of factors involved in making a decision.
So yes, let's just summarize. 1, we can check in with the feelings. 2, kind of this economic resource management kind of analogy,
which is a need.
Well,
managing our resources, that we have a need for resource management.
And then kind of also the return on investment, basically, of that, and and then all the other things that we've mentioned. So you mentioned that we this topic is rather complete. Let's just summarize. So in terms of, I believe that we have offered a convincing argument that speaking in giraffe honesty, that will result in the optimal state, in the sense that it would meet the needs of connection, it will meet the need of ease for both the speaker and the listener, and in the same time, then we can make the world a more wonderful place. Amen.
We sure can.
We sure can.
Right.
So
Sounds good,
wonderful. So this is the end of this segment. If you have any questions, please write them in the segment below, and then Dan's contact detail will be easily available.
All right.
Until next time.